Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to give you guys some underrated contemporary romance recommendations. I have done videos like this in the past, so definitely check out my book recommendations playlist if you want even more videos like this. I did do a historical romance underrated video pretty recently, maybe a few months ago, so it's definitely well past time that I do a video dedicated to contemporary romances again. Basically, I went into my Goodreads, sorted my books by number of ratings, and I am talking about contemporary romance novellas and novels today that have the lowest amount of ratings on Goodreads that I really love and I think that you should definitely check out. The first two that I have are like Halloween themed short stories. They're not even quite novellas because they're less than like 50 pages each, but I loved both of these so much and I gave them both 5 stars, so I'm gonna recommend them to you. First one is Seduced by Death. I believe this is by Adrian Blue. This has 68 ratings, and yeah, the cover is a little weird, but this is not even a romance. It's just like an erotic short story between this necromancer. So she can save people's lives, basically. If they are on the brink of death, she can save them from dying. And then we have Death himself, looking like a Grim Reaper, and his job, of course, is to make sure that people die so he can take their souls, right? And so for the past like 600 years, these two beings have like been dancing around each other and kind of gotten frustrated with one another because they're getting in each other's way, but there's also this like undeniable sexual chemistry between the two of them. So this short story is just basically the two of them finally giving in to that tension and that chemistry, and it's just a fun time. I will say this doesn't have like a happily ever after or anything, but it's one of those situations where these characters are going to come in like constant contact with one another over like eternity. So like, you know, they're probably gonna eventually get together for real. But yeah, this was just such a fun time. And speaking of a fun time, we have An Evening at Crystal Lake. I believe this is by Rachel J. Thompson. This is another short story. We have 3 pretty major characters. We have a husband and wife. The husband is a photographer and the wife is his model, and so they go to this cabin that very much is like Crystal Lake from the Friday the 13th horror film franchise, and they hire this man to dress up as Jason Voorhees and to do a photo shoot with the wife. And things turn very sexy. Basically, we have a situation where the wife and this model start doing things and the husband is just photographing them the whole time, and it's hot. I wanted this to be longer. I want this to be a series because I was already obsessed with these 3 characters. Like, I need more from them. And I just could not help but give this 5 stars. Like, it was just so fun. Next we have Contradictions by Ampersand. This is a Dramini fanfiction. This has 161 ratings on Goodreads. It's possible that more people have read this fanfiction and just haven't kept track of it on Goodreads, but this is truly like the best BDSM romance that I've ever read. This follows Hermione. She is feeling very sexually frustrated, and so she goes to this very exclusive sex club to be matched up with a dominant who turns out to be Draco Malfoy, and things go on from there. Like, this is so hot. The Draco in this is so sexy and swoony. We love him. But there's also a really interesting storyline having to do with like the wizarding world that I thought was really well done as well. Just incredible. Cannot recommend it highly enough if you were looking for Dramini fanfiction. Next up, we have some Cassie Mint novellas. There were more novellas of hers that I could have included on this list because most of her novellas have under 1,000 ratings, but I decided to pick out like the standout ones that I haven't talked about before in previous videos like this. So first of all, I want to bring up this like survival series that she did maybe last year or the year before. The first one in that series is Mountain Captive. This one has 321 ratings. This is, I would say, my favorite of this little novella series. But basically this is like the closest you'll get to romantic suspense when it comes to Cassie Mint. And this is about our main character who gets kidnapped by the hero when she's hiking through the woods. The hero is trying to get revenge on the heroine's father. Meanwhile, the heroine hates her father, and so she's like, why don't we just collaborate, let's get together and let's enact revenge on my dad because I hate him. And this was just so hot and such a good time. Like, I don't know, this was like one of the best scenarios when it comes to like a captive captor romance. Like, I was here for it. Another one in this series that I loved is Desert Target. This has 237 ratings. This one reads a lot like a Jessica Kane novella. Like, the heroine reminds me a lot of some of her heroines. So our main character, she's going on vacation somewhere in the desert. I can't quite remember where, but the hero is an assassin sent to kill this like Russian mafia boss that looks pretty much identical to our heroine. And so the hero just kidnaps her and like tries to kill her. And she thinks that this is part of like an immersive vacation experience, that like this assassin is just an actor pretending to kidnap her. Like, it's bonkers, it's crazy, and this was just a good time. Like, it was very well done. Next up, we have All the Queen's Men by Kayla Rain. This has 244 ratings. This is essentially a fae why choose romance. So we have our main character, and she has 4 love interests. So it's a poly romance between the 5 of them, though I think only 2 of the men are like also in a relationship with one another, and then the other 2 men, like, there's no sword crossing going on between the 2 of them. But their main focus is our main character, the heroine, who is essentially a fae queen, and the men in this are just so swoony. The audiobook, guys, is the way to go because we have multiple narrators. One of the heroes is narrated by Teddy Hamilton. One of the heroes is narrated, I believe, by Jacob Morgan. But these are like some of my absolute favorite audiobook narrators in one audiobook, and it's so well done. Then we have Heat of the Night. This is by Nicole Stewart. This has 259 ratings. This is an MMF mafia romance series, which I have never read a poly mafia romance series. So if you have recommendations, definitely let me know in the comments below. But we have our 2 heroes who are already in a secretive relationship with each other. One of the heroes is the bodyguard to the other. So he's the heir to a mafia boss in Miami. Then we have the heroine who essentially gets sold to the hero who is the mafia heir. I'm so sorry that I can't remember character names. And they go into like an arranged marriage. And so this is just very, very angsty. I will say it takes a very, very, very long time to get to the MMF poly action. Probably like the 85% mark is when we get the first scene between the 3 of them, but I think the wait is well worth it. I did give this one 4 stars just because there were times where I felt the pacing was kind of slow, but overall this was very well done. And I think pretty much everything Nicole Stewart writes is MMF, so I'm very interested to check out more from this author for sure. Next up, we have Bright Like Wildfire by Juliet Cross. This has 328 ratings. Now, I will say this book came out relatively recently, I think maybe a few months ago, so that's also why this book doesn't have a lot of ratings. However, I think that unfortunately this book is going to be underrated because Juliet Cross is so well known for her Stay a Spell series. And so I think a lot of people are going to ignore this book and look right over it when it's one of the best small town romances that I've ever read. It's also a book that I relate a lot to because our 2 main characters, Betty and Bennett, they are leads in a community theater play. So a lot of the story surrounds like the rehearsal process and this like forced proximity aspect where these 2 have to rehearse with each other. But there's a little bit of like a frenemies to lovers vibe between Betty and Bennett. And I also love that Betty is very guarded. She's kind of a grumpy heroine and he's kind of a sunshiny hero, and I related to Betty in a lot of different ways. But the romance, oh my god, this romance was spectacular. Some of the best sex scenes that I think I've ever read. There's one sex scene in particular that I've never read anything quite like it in any other romance book, and it was just so beautiful and tender and sensual and sexy, like everything that you could want from a sex scene. Like, just absolutely next level, incredible. I would not be surprised if this ends up being one of my top favorite contemporary romances of 2022. That's how good it is. Next up, we have Bottle Rocket by Erin McClellan. This has 369 ratings. I've talked about this novella quite a bit in previous videos. This was one of my favorite novellas that I read in 2021, but this is about Rosie and Leo. It's a second chance romance. They were in love in high school, they broke up, and you know, they parted ways. And so now I think it's like 13 years later, and Rosie and Leo are both back in town. And so Rosie and Leo decide to have some fun together. Rosie is a dominant and Leo is a submissive. I love femdom romances. There aren't too many out there that I've read, at least, but this one is so well done. And Erin McClellan is the queen of using toys in her sexy scenes. There's also an orgy scene in this. Like, there's a lot going on in just a 200-page novella, but I love this couple with my whole heart. Like, I cried a couple times reading this because you could really feel how much these two characters love each other, but it seems like a happily ever after isn't going to be possible just because of how like different these two people are, like how different their personalities are, and it's so good. Next is Deal with the Demon by Chase Verity. This has 393 ratings. I did talk about this one pretty recently in a video I did about like adorable and wholesome books, so I will link that up in the cards above. But this is essentially about Heidi, who is a single mom. She's raising 2 kids on her own. I think they're both teenagers, if not preteens. And she comes across this mysterious business card that just has a QR code on it, and it's just like, hey, you need help with something? Here you go. So I think her son ends up scanning the QR code. This demon Driston just shows up, and he's like, hey, it's my job to just help people out with whatever they need. So he kind of becomes like a house husband because Heidi is, you know, she's a single parent and she's working, I think, several jobs. She's trying to make ends meet and raise her kids and take care of the house and everything, and it's just too much. And so he helps her out with that. And through that, they fall for each other. And there were some really adorable scenes with like her kids in particular, like Driston's relationship with them as well as Heidi's relationship with them. There's a really great scene where I believe her son comes out to Heidi that I thought was really well done. And yeah, this had like the perfect amount of steam as well. You only get like one steamy scene, but it's really well done. Then we have Honey Trap by Cassie Mint. Oh, I don't get to talk about this one all that much, but I love this novella with my heart and soul. It is a very close, I would say this is my second favorite novella by Cassie Mint, like right behind Big Bet, because this is another friends to lovers romance, and Cassie Mint truly excels at like the pining that goes along with friends to lovers. You know, we've got this mutual pining and longing going on between our hero and heroine. The hero is a private investigator. The heroine is what's known as a honey trap. So she gets paid to like go out on dates with men and like extract information from them, basically, to then give back to her client. You know, so these two have been friends for years, I think, at this point. And even though the heroine is showing signs that she wants to be with him and that she loves him, he's not taking it seriously because of her job. Like, he thinks that she's just trying to butter him up and trying to like get something out of him. And oh, it's so good. This one is just next level, and I don't get to rave about it as much as I want to, but like, just read it. Just read it. If you love romance novellas, like, read this one. I want to reread this now. Next up, we have Perfect Matcha, again by Erin McClellan. This has 704 ratings. This is a friends to lovers romance. I brought this up, I brought this up in my like sex lessons or like teach me video, so I'll link that up in the cards above because there are some lessons going on between the two heroes. So we have Camden and Theo. Theo needs a date to his ex's wedding, and so Camden offers to match him up with his boss, but his boss and Camden work at a sex toy shop, and so Theo doesn't feel confident enough to date somebody who owns that kind of store when he knows nothing about sex toys, basically. So Camden offers to teach Theo about these toys. This is like the perfect amount of sweet, angsty, and sexy. So well done. Then we have another Cassie Mint. We have two more Cassie Mints that I want to talk about. The first one is Big Boxer. This one has 745 ratings. This one features a plus-sized heroine, which is fun. And we have our hero, who's a boxer, But he's kind of coming towards like the end of his career, and the heroine has been like obsessed with him since like the beginning of his career when she was like a teenager. And so she's a sports reporter. She watches his latest match and she notices that like he's lost his spark. Like there's just something off about the way that he fights. And so she's honest about that in her like review of this fight basically. And he tracks her down and confronts her about why she wrote the things that she wrote. But there's this instant connection between the two of them. This was hot. I just loved this dynamic of like the heroine being obsessed with him, and like there's the age gap, and like it's good. I would also highly recommend Hacker by Cassie Mint, which is a part of that same series that Honey Trap was a part of. This one has 973 ratings. This one I love so much because I related to the heroine so much. The heroine absolutely is neurodiverse. I myself am neurodiverse, and she's a hacker. The hero is a part of the mafia. And so I can't remember why she starts, like she hacks into his like security cameras in his apartment and starts watching him. But she does. And she's also hacked into like all of his phones. Like she has hacked into like everything this man has. And she realizes through surveilling him that his cousin is trying to kill him. And so she warns him by like setting off all of his devices, and he gets pissed off and he tracks her down, and things go on from there. There is a really hot phone sex scene in this. Amazing. Amazing. So well done. A very unique dynamic between the hero and heroine. Last but not least, we have Midnight with the Devil by Emma Castle. This has 1,334 ratings. So this is a book that I feel like no one talks about, and I don't understand why, because this is like the best devil romance out there. I haven't read that many, but this one is phenomenal. We have our hero, I believe his name is Lucian. He's the literal devil. That's who he is. And we have our heroine who is like in her 20s or 30s. Her father is dying. Like he is in stage 4 cancer. There is no chance for him. She goes to the chapel in the hospital and she prays, you know, she will do anything to keep her father alive. And so Lucian shows up and he's like, let's make a deal. You know, I'll save your dad. You know, I'll completely heal him. But you have to come spend like every Friday night with me for like the next few months. Okay, thanks. And they do. This is very sexy. I loved the redemption arc that Lucian had. It was unlike anything I've ever read before. It was very, very well done. I liked the way that hell works in this world as well. So good. And I feel like a lot of people just haven't read this yet, and I need you guys to. This is also the perfect romance to read for spooky season, so you have no excuse. All right, that is going to be it for this underrated contemporary romance recommendations video. Of course, there were some paranormal romances in there as well, just for fun. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of these books, if you want to give recommendations to myself or to people that are watching so that they can get even more recommendations. I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!